$500 or less, much less. And the business that you can start, we're going to talk about, let's get straight into it. The agenda we're talking about, I want to cover the goal. I want to go over the potential. Even though you're starting with $500 or less, sometimes much less, I like to talk to people and say, we can start a business with whatever cash you got in your pocket. If it's zero, then it's zero. Uh, we can change the kinds of businesses that you start in order to get those first paying customers, first satisfied paying customers, and use that cash flow in a disciplined way to grow a business that can meet your needs and your goals. The agenda for what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to talk about the goals that I have for not only this hour that we're going to spend together, but also the business that you can have up and running within the next 90 days, definitely within the semester, and the potential that that business can grow to show you some examples of what other people have done with bootstrapping and starting with a micro business. We're going to talk about why you should think about starting with the cash that you have in your pocket and ways to reduce the risk of creating startups, as well as what bootstrapping is, what micro businesses are, explain that concept real briefly, go into some of the catches, when it works, when it doesn't work, why it doesn't work sometimes, and some of the keys to starting. And then I'll go right into the tools that I found have been most effective of how to select the business venture that's more likely to be successful with a little bit of capital. Some businesses are more capital intensive and they're more challenging to start with the money that you got in your pocket. We'll talk about preparing your marketing plan, your business plan, specifically focused on getting cash flow positive and getting profitable with very little money. We'll talk about the details that are associated with registering with appropriate government associations, their fees associated with that. How do we can generate a little bit of cash before actually having to pay it? Again, first I want to say that this is not legal advice. I'm not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. And I'm not an accountant. So I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm not giving you accounting advice. I'm not rendering that service to you. I'm giving you information that is valid, but information for you to use. Check it, and again, seek legal and accounting advice when appropriate. But I'm going to talk about setting up simple bookkeeping and accounting systems so that you can focus and track what's being spent, what needs to be spent, and when you need to be generating income. Because the key thing with starting a small business, starting with very little bit of cash, is being creative more so than going out and buying a lot of advertising services, going out and buying a lot of equipment. We're going to be tightly defining who our customers are, what value we can add to them, and testing it on an ongoing basis and getting people to pay you as soon as possible. And then we'll talk about a few ways of growing your business to a much larger scale, getting something that's sustainable, things that could meet some of your more long-term goals. Okay, so that's the agenda. Let's move forward. I want to talk about the goal. I want to explore how to start a business with very little money and very little risk. When I talk to students at Georgia State and they're taking entrepreneurship courses, strongly recommend you taking them. There's a lot of value to be gained in classes across the campus, especially I'm here at the library right now. Great resource for starting. There's a lot of information that you can use. But they go through and they're given a lot of bits and pieces. You may take a marketing class, you may take an accounting class, and you go through and have the Entrepreneurship Center focuses on doing a business model canvas that goes through and talks about the value that you add, who is your particular customer, what's your distribution, how do you connect the channels to those customers. We talk about the bits and pieces, but it's hard to put all of that into one whole, one operating unit. And starting a whole small business with very little money is a great way to, with very little risk, because you're going out and getting yourself into a lot of debt. You're not going out and getting on the hook with an investor, probably somebody that you have a relationship with, friends or family, in order to take their capital and try and put it into a business that a lot of times you haven't tested, not sure how it's going to work out, and you could put some not only capital at risk but relationships at risk. And you don't need to do that. You can do it in a much more controlled way, much smaller way. We're going to walk through and talk about some ways of how to find out which businesses work best. Service businesses, even in a pandemic and a virtual environment, we're going to talk about ways to find ways to deliver value to your customers in a safe way, even in a pandemic, which is one of my goals, to show you how to create a side business while you're in school or without quitting your job, even during the situation that we're in now. I want to put some numbers to our goals. Okay. These are minimums. These are the ones that I want to make sure that by the time you get off, you have a good idea of your next steps as to how you can go about meeting these goals. Within the next 90 days, next 3 months, you have created a small business that has generated $1,000 of profit, $1,000 of cash in your bank. So you started with 500 at max. You get your 500 back plus another $1,000 of profit. That's a goal and a challenge that I want to submit to everybody who's on this call. You can do that. That is very possible. Even if you're starting with $10, zero pocket change. You got that bucket of change that you have that you're collecting pocket change. Take that, turn it into cash, use that. If you see, if you even on a part-time basis, you're a full-time student, you're working a job, you're trying to use maybe 20 hours of spare time during the week. If you want to commit that 20 hours per week for a year, you can generate $15,000 of extra cash. We can do that. And if you stick with it and reinvest those profits and grow it to the next year where you're doing $40,000 to $50,000, I have it listed as that being important because this is pre-pandemic numbers, and I'm sure what the economy is showing today. But the average income for an American is $50,000. So if you can do that with a part-time business, and it can be done, you can do it. If you can do that with a part-time business by your second year, so if you start in the freshman, sophomore year, by the time you're in your junior, senior year, you may not have to go work for anybody else. I want that to be an option for you. And I want you to be able to not only hit these numbers, but to be able to create a profitable business in 90 days or less with very little investment, low overhead, and be able to create your own targeted goals and generate a business that can meet those goals. So while I was preparing this presentation, I was taking a look. A friend of mine was telling me about this Lamborghini that he had, and he pointed me to the Lamborghini dealer in North Atlanta, and they had a deal going where they had a Lamborghini Evo Spider drop top, and you can lease it for $2,599 a month. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so if I made it a goal, I don't want this Lambo. I need to create a business that generates that amount of money plus whatever amount that I need for the down payment, and I can lease that through my business and have the business pay for that Lamborghini. Totally doable. I'm not saying you can do that in 90 days, right? Let's take a look and see what it will take to figure out how to find a target market that has a problem or an opportunity that has greater demand than supply, enough demand that you can meet it on a consistent basis to be able to meet your target monthly income to satisfy whatever goals that you have. Does that make sense? We'll go into more detail as we go forward. I want to show you a couple of examples. Inc. Magazine is a great place to go for success stories for entrepreneurs. People who started with very little capital. Life is Good is one of those examples. And I'm going to have the links down here at the bottom. I'm not sure if you can copy and paste that and bring it up if you want, but there are articles here showing that with $200 of initial investment, he's able to grow. That business does $100 million now. Superfly kids that are making superhero costumes, capes, masks for kids. Now doing $2.5 million.
Robert, if you are kind enough, what I can do is I can share these links in an email to everyone who joined us today. So I'll
Okay,
follow up with everyone with these links that you're providing so that they can click on them as well.
sounds good. And then
You guys will get that after the presentation.
there are going to be some other resources at the end that I could probably share as well. I'll send all that stuff to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Sure. One of the local billionaires here, the Spanx organization, was started with 5,000, so a little bit more than what our initial cap is. But at the end of 90 days, you can generate 1,000, and I'm going to show an example of where you can generate 3 to 5,000 in that same amount. So definitely a number of you can start with a small business with the cash you have in your pocket and use the cash that you generate from that business as startup capital for a larger business or a different business or even to buy another business. All able to get you, and you can get the experience of running a whole business with very little capital. And you can use that. It's transferable to much larger businesses. The same tools that you use, once you understand how to market, once you understand how to sell, understand how to use your partners to move forward, you can grow much larger businesses as Dell, Microsoft, Apple. All of these guys started with very little capital, and able to grow sizable enterprises. So the potential for growing the business that you start today is really unlimited. I'm not saying that you won't use external capital later, but by then, acquiring that capital is going to cost you less. You will have reduced a lot of the risk in your business. You would have proved that there are customers who will pay to solve this particular problem or take advantage of this particular opportunity and will pay you to do it. That reduces your risk and it reduces the cost of capital when you go to raise capital from equity, that is with no credit, no collateral, equity investors bringing in the hardest capital to get, or when you approach banks, it's going to reduce the interest rates that you pay and be able to show that your business has a track record of running, being able to generate that cash, being able to satisfy customers. Why would you want to do this? Uh, you can control your destiny. And at a time like now when there's all kinds of risks, getting something that you can have some control over can help deal with stress, help make things a little bit more palatable. You can create the capital that you need to grow a larger business, to buy a larger business, to fund the acquisition of a larger business. And you'll have the experience, like I said, of actually having to start it from scratch. You may never have to have a boss. If you can get to the point where your business is sustainable, that's it may not be an option for you. You may be unemployable by choice. And there's a great deal of freedom. Now you can work wherever you want. You can build a business. We're going to talk about how to get those initial customers, but then there's options where you can remove yourself from operations. Your business runs, your marketing systems run, customers get satisfied, cash is deposited in your bank, and you're all over the place. When the world opens back up, maybe you'll be able to run your business from a boat or from Chile or from wherever. And you should have those options. Once you have the skills, which comes with some work and some stress, there's a great deal of why. But, and this is important, and we're going to talk about this in the next slide. Ultimately, you need to know your why. I'm going to give you tools. We're going to go through tools, but you have to apply them and you have to work every day, even though it's just a little bit of time. A little bit of capital means a lot of effort and a lot of creativity and a lot of effort when you may not necessarily be wanting to work. You need to have that why on those days where you're tired and one customer is calling you and really getting on your nerves. Why are you doing this? The reason that makes it easy, make it not feel like work, is that why. And having it written down or having a picture or having it vivid, some touchstone that you can go to when things aren't going your way. And I'm not saying that the tools I'm going to give you are just going to make it a cakewalk. This is a challenge starting with small amounts of capital, but you can do it. And it will not feel like work if the why lines up with the type of business that you're starting, with the customers that you're servicing, and the product or service that you're providing. Going to the why is important. Let's talk about two definitions. What is bootstrapping? I've been talking about it all this time. It's starting a business without outside financing and funding its development through internal cash flow. We're talking about starting with the money that you have in your pocket so that you don't have to get permission to start that business. You can start today. You decide, you have control. You guide your destiny. Micro businesses. There's a whole industry around businesses that run with fewer than 5 people. Okay. The majority, and this is probably may not come through in most media, but the majority of businesses, more than half of the businesses that are incorporated in the United States have one or fewer employees. Less than 1% of all businesses are publicly traded, and fewer uh, still now because of the trend of private equity firms taking publicly traded firms private. Fewer of them are as large and big, the publicly traded companies that you can buy on the stock market. Most of them are small. Most of the businesses that are in existence are small, and the significant ones are micro businesses, ones which I hope you will be starting over this next couple of weeks. The catch, okay? Not all businesses lend themselves to micro businesses. So there are capital intensive businesses. If you were to start, I got an example here of a commercial airline manufacturer. That'll be a challenge. I don't want to limit the creativity of anyone that's listening. If you can come up with a way to structure the business, to scale and get into that industry with a little bit of capital, go to it. You can figure out how to do this COVID-19 vaccine thing with $500. Nobody will be happier than me. But those capital intensive businesses are a challenge to start, and I'm going to steer us clear of those that require significant investment. You will have to work extra. I put quotes around hard because you may have to spend a lot of time working in your business because you're starting with little capital. And I'm saying working in your business. I know a lot of people will say you should work on your business rather than work in it. But when you're starting with $500 or less, you're going to be working in it. You're going to be working in it. You're going to be working on it. If you can control the amount of time that you're going to be spending on it, you can schedule it, but it's going to be something that you will be hands-on starting this business. And that's a feature. Okay. When you actually have to make sales calls, when you have to reach out with people online and try and get them interested in a particular opportunity, you're going to get direct feedback from them saying why this works or why it doesn't work. There's no filter. It's directly to you, and you can act on that information immediately. When you have to go in and book a sale, actually go into your accounting system, create a new account for I am selling this particular Mac blush online through Facebook Messenger. This isn't my account. I just created a sale. I not just booked revenue. This is the cost of goods sold that I just sent through this particular website that is now drop shipping. This is now my profit, and I just created a P&L. You would have to go through a whole semester of accounting and still probably not know how to generate a P&L, still not be able to run your accounting system as effectively as you will be able to run it within 90 days of running your real live business because it's yours. Okay. So it's a catch. I'm putting in quotes that you're working hard, but it may not feel like it. I work a lot, but it doesn't feel, people will tell me from the outside that I'm working a lot, but it doesn't feel like it to me. It doesn't feel like it internally. because I'm having fun doing what I'm doing. I'm having fun when I'm talking to fellow entrepreneurs who are doing something that most people go their whole lives, have it on their list that we want to start a business one day and never do it. And you're going to be doing it. If you haven't done it already, you can do it in the next 3 months and get a profitable business up and running. But you're going to have to be creative. You're going to have to work, and it's a feature. It's a catch, but it's a feature. You may have to do some things that you prefer not doing. Not everybody is a people person. You may not want to talk directly to customers all the time. I'm going to ask you to get over that, at least initially, so that you can figure out what works, what doesn't work, so that you can train other people when you get the money to hire consultants or hire an employee, or be able to automate the process of how you're going to generate your customers later, how you're going to handle your customers later, how you're going to handle their accounting, all the different pieces of running your business. You'll have to do them at the beginning. And then as resources become available, we'll try and phase in help for you to take off your plate some of those things that you may not enjoy as much as some of the other parts of the business. Let's talk about some keys to get started. Here's a list of some things that we can do to minimize the upfront cost. We want to conserve capital. Is one of the biggest things we want to do when we're starting. We're going to need to test. We're having to generate some ideas, test those ideas in the market in a cost-effective way, and be able to satisfy the needs of those customers in a cost-effective way. So what I'm asking you to do is, when you're considering the business to start, choose something simple. Okay, we're not trying to create the next artificial intelligence model for curing cancer and analyzing new drugs to solve things that may not even exist yet. Simple stuff. I'm going to talk about 4 different ways you can find a business. One of them is just selling things that already work. Okay. Choose something simple. Don't rent office space. You have access to launch GSU. There's no reason to sign any leases, no reason to add employees and all the paperwork that goes into bringing on employees. You can use contractors, friends and family, get some help, but you don't necessarily have to actually make it a formal thing about hiring employees. Again, this is not legal advice. Seek your own counsel, but you don't necessarily have to pay the $145, $125 you need to create an LLC or a C corporation initially. Okay, running a sole proprietorship is a thing. Okay, and there is a lot more sole proprietorships than there are LLCs, and there are a lot of LLCs. By the end of the 90 days, after you've generated this income, you'll have $1,000. You can pay and incorporate then. You can get a lawyer to incorporate it if you want. They'll give you a nice book and the stamp of your corporate seal and all that good stuff. I'm just saying, don't do it on day one. You don't necessarily have to do it on day one. I want to make that option available to you. Use a very simple accounting system. Now, the thing about the businesses that we're talking about, I want to get them to pay you upfront. Okay, cash business. We can't afford accounts receivable with less than $500. If people are taking 45 days, 60 days, 90 days to pay you, you are paying for them to use your product or service for those 45, 60, 90 days. That's not the kind of business that we can't afford to do that with the little bit of a capital that we have initially. You can change your credit policy as your business grows, as you go along further. But on day one, our credit policy is 100% down, no down payments. Yeah, nice and easy, cash and carry. We like cash. Cash out, however you swipe, whatever you want to do. But get the cash now and then we'll worry about everything else later. Avoid inventory, avoid accounts receivable. We're going to avoid borrowing money. We're going to avoid buying excess equipment. Okay, if you have a car that you want to use, you have a computer that you use, you're online now, whatever device that you're using now, or if you can come to the library, they have a lot of equipment that you can borrow through Georgia State or any other association that you may be affiliated with. Borrow that equipment, but try not to buy. We don't want to consume cash initially. Okay. So keep that as part of your selection process and go with things that you know or can learn quickly. I'm a big proponent of using LinkedIn Learning. If you want to start doing software development, you want to learn how to use different marketing tools online, Facebook marketing, Instagram, and YouTube marketing. All of they have great videos that you can walk through and can help you get up to speed with learning things that you'll be able to charge for and be able to use in your business through LinkedIn Learning that you get through Georgia State for free. Put a fair amount of profits back in your business if you want to grow. Now, if you're comfortable just taking a little bit of money that dribbles in and using it as it comes in, that is completely up to you. It is your business. You have that option. But if you wanted to grow, you may want to put some money back in order to be able to increase the amount of marketing that you're doing. If you want to add more people to have them help you grow your business, that'll be another option that you want to look into. Okay, now this chart is a little busy, but this is basically going to be the foundation of what we're going to be talking about going forward. First, do you know why you are starting it? Okay, I want to start a business and I'm starting it. That's great. But again, having the why, there are going to be some really bad days. I can't promise you much, but I can promise you that it's going to get hard. There are going to be some times when you wish that you didn't start, and you're going to need a touchstone to help get you through or help get you over some of those tough days. And having it written down, having a charm or something. I used to have a keychain from the Eiffel Tower, that I would touch and know that what I'm doing is going to get me international again. It's going to get me around the world. I'm going to spend a year going from these 8 different places around the globe, and I'm going to spend a year doing this travel. This is why I'm doing it. A lot of entrepreneurs, their whole personal financial plan is their business. When my business is successful, I'm not going to have to worry about it. I'm gonna have all the money I need. I ain't got to worry about my personal credit. I don't have to worry about debt. I don't have to worry about all this stuff. Once the business succeeds, life is great. I know you've heard the statistic of how many businesses fail. It's true. A lot of businesses have failed. I've had some businesses that have failed. And one of the key reasons of being able to start with very little bit of money is if it does fail, you didn't lose a whole lot of cash. It'll hurt. It still hurts. But you learn from each and every one, and every business gets better. Your skill as an entrepreneur gets better every time you go through the process. Okay. So you can't pin all of your hopes on one particular business or one group of products or services, which is why we're limiting the risk and starting with very little. But you need to have an overall plan of what your financial situation is going to be about. What are your goals? Where do you want to live? There's a whole slew of tools that are associated with personal financial planning. I'm going to encourage you to look into and have those goals permeate their way through to your why, or why you're establishing this particular business. This business that you're going to start over the next 90 days, you're doing this so that you can do X, and have that X be strong enough that'll drive you through those tough days. I'm going to give you a brief example of some templates of personal requirements and one sheet of personal financial planning for financial goals in just a second. But once you know your why and you're rock solid with that, do you know what kind of business you want to start? Uh, when looking at some of the tools like Business Model Canvas and some of the other tools, even getting into launch, you have to already have an idea of what kind of business you want to start. A lot of people don't. They don't have an idea and they don't have a system of creating an idea of which business you want to start or which target. We're looking for a target market that has a particular problem or opportunity that has enough demand to satisfy your why, to satisfy your goals. Okay. We're going to talk about that. There's a tool called market gap analysis that I got from the Entrepreneur's Manual by Richard White. I'm going to walk you through a brief example of how you can come up with 100 different ideas and basically to rank them against your criteria of what we're using to select your first product or service, to select to build your business. Okay. That's the one that we're going to select, put it into testing to make sure that we have a real business and not what they call a mirage. Not that's just something that only works in your mind or in my mind, but actually has specific people who say, yes, I have that problem and here's my credit card, send me that thing. So if you don't know, we can use the market gap analysis. We'll walk through an example of that. If you do know, then there's a business review process. Let's say, I know I want to be a software consultant, or I know I want to run a software business, or I know I want to be a makeup artist, or I want to, whatever you want to do. There's some tools that we can go through, some questions that we need to answer in order to find out who the particular competitors are in your industry, what their trends are, how is that business being affected by this COVID-19 thing and sheltering from home and virtual learning. How is that being affected? And then what kind of problems and opportunities are produced? Let's test a particular offering to specific groups of people to see if we have a business we can do. Okay? So let's choose a business. Let's talk about personal requirements first. So when I'm talking about requirements, you're a business, it's a vehicle. It's a means of getting from where you are to some particular place in your life. There's a reason why you're doing this, why you want to do it. And it's good to get it down on paper and to go shopping for it right now. Go see this thing that you want. I'm putting down a 4-bedroom home in Tuxedo Estates over in Buckhead, over near the Bobby Jones golf course is $2.5 million. Because I went on Zillow, or I went driving. They're still doing open houses, socially distanced, and obviously you have to have your mask on and all that stuff. Go shop for what it is that you want and put that price down. Try and get it down to a place where if you can finance it, it's a down payment and a monthly payment. Okay. And we sum up those top 3 priority goals as we make them our 1 year, 6-month goals, to see what our target market income from our business needs to be in order to satisfy that particular wish, satisfy that particular goal, to make that thing a regular part of our lifestyle. Right now, it's aspirational. We want to have this thing. How do I make this a regular part of my life? My business needs to generate a positive cash flow of X. And this now is my goal for the next quarter, for the next 6 months, for the next year. So this is an example of what your requirements could look like. This is that template I was telling you about as far as creating your personal goals summary. Here, down the left-hand side is a list of different areas of life. There's some personal goals that you may want to have, some professional goals. I want to grow my business to $250,000 to $1 million in revenue, to $10 million with 15% profit margin. You want to put that in there and kind of put a timeline as to when you want to get that done. Financial, I want to be worth having net worth of $200,000 or $50,000, because a lot of people are going to be starting. If you're students, a lot of people have student loans. There's debt that you have to actually come out of negative to get to zero, and then from zero up to whatever level of net worth that you want. And how does that fit with your business? There's some risk in having debt. There's some cost in having that debt. How are you actually going to use that uh, in a complete plan, an overview of how you're actually going to move year to year to year towards the goals that you want, as far as your emergency funds, your living quarters, possessions that you want to have, vacations, trips you want to take, where and when. Understanding that there's going to be some flexibility. Something like this will probably happen again. So we'll have to figure out how to live with that and how to have that risk go into our planning as well. But this is an overview that's going to get you to your why, of why you're actually doing this, and why, when it gets hard, it's going to be worth it to push through it. Let's talk about choosing a business. Okay. We got less than 500 bucks. Look for low cost programs that are offered by established businesses. Okay. This whole sheltering in place thing, I've had some friends that, from one time or another, while this has been happening now 6 months, that have come over and hung out, once we know that they're not sick and I'm not sick. I don't know about you, but I had no idea that these makeup videos on Instagram and YouTube, where people, they'll come on and they're, in front of the screen, and they look, whoa, there's some issues going on here. And then they show you these products, and then they put them on, and by the end, they look amazing. And you can use this discount code to buy this lip liner or eyeshadow or base or whatever it is. I had no idea that they were making so much money doing it. So I was checking it out, and Mac Pro has these programs that you can become a makeup artist, and there's an application, and they're very cost effective. If that do, that's the kind of business that you want to have, you don't have to create the product. It's already made. You don't have to create the demand for the product. They already have a significant investment in marketing to isolate the kinds of people that are more likely to buy these kinds of products. What you have to do is create a list of those relationships for yourself and show them why they should buy using your discount code. And you should buy their products from you, and be able to do some value add through your marketing system that makes purchasing from you unique. Same with Mary Kay. I had some friends that I was in high school with. This is a long time ago. And they got started, she got started selling Mary Kay way back in the day, and got one of those Cadillacs. And I just got back in touch with her again online, and she is still making money from Mary Kay. And like, I got a couple of aunts that were working with her, and they paid for a piece of land in Mississippi. These programs work, very low cost. The key with this is to make sure it fits your why, that the work that you have to do to make those programs work is something that you enjoy doing, that it's part of your passion, that it lines up with your lifestyle already, and that you can find good mentorship, a good partnership program that helps you figure out how to generate that target revenue that you need per month to meet why, to meet your goal as quickly as possible. Now, you can also copy or modify an existing idea that somebody else had. How many delivery services are out there right now? Each one of them doing a significant amount of business. If you see something that you think you could mimic or copy, I'm not saying that you should infringe on copyrights, but most things, there's nothing new under the sun. If you can come up with another X that meets the problem, or satisfies an opportunity that a target group of people have, a big enough target group willing to pay a significant amount in order for you to meet your goals, why not? Business from something that you're doing. I got a friend that makes models of buildings and airplanes. Okay? And he reached out, it's benefiting from the resurgence of Atlanta and the tax credits bringing movie production and advertising here to Atlanta. And he has a list that he goes around and targets those special effects organizations that need models built of sites, buildings that they want to use, and sells it and does it at a very low cost. You can actually get them to prepay significant amounts or to make really complicated and intricate models of entire cities. I mean, like, and sell them for major bucks for one-time use, and then they'll like crash them or whatever and set them on fire. So if you have a hobby or something that you're doing, you're interested in poker, you play golf or whatever it is, use those affiliations, use those hobbies, and see whether there's an industry already associated with those hobbies and who actually buys or who actually pays for this kind of thing, and what kind of blurb in one line can you make to say, do you need X? I can provide it for Y. We're going to test that too. Or you can develop your own ideas with market gap analysis. Let's talk about what market gap analysis is. Market gap analysis is a tool. Like I said, I got it from the Entrepreneur's Manual. This book has been out of print for a long time. It is by far the best book on entrepreneurship, startups I've ever read. And it has on, I think it's chapter 4, it's talking about a market gap analysis. It's a tool to help you. A lot of people think that the idea is the thing. I have this one great idea. If I can just get this one thing done, life would be great. Well, a lot of times that one great idea, nobody cares. Okay, so now you're out of ideas, and you still want to be an entrepreneur, but you don't know how to come up with new ideas. A market gap analysis, if you run it properly, either by yourself, and it gets better when you add more people to it because your creativity bounces off somebody else's creativity. I hate to use the word brainstorming because a lot of people say that like you just sit in a room and just come up with ideas, but this one, stage adds data from the market. It's customers, you're bringing in target customers, and you can come up with 25 to 50 long-term businesses, like business ideas that have these particular target groups of people. Like, so there are women between the ages of 25 and 45 that live in Charlotte. And we know how many people that is that have income between $50,000 and $75,000. We know how many people those are. We have their addresses. We have their names. These people have this particular demand. I can get an email list. I can start adding people from this area on Facebook as a list onto my business page and send them a message saying that if you have this problem, I have this product that can satisfy it. If you want to order it, click this link and put in your credit card. You can come up with 25 to 50 long-term viable gaps with a session. If you run through a typical gap analysis, you'll come up with 10 to 25 short-term gaps. One short-term gap I was thinking about are these freaking masks. These Georgia State Panther masks, awesome. I get stopped all the time when I'm on the train and people come up to me and say, man, where are you getting those? If I can get a box of 200 of these things, I can sell them in a week. I'm hoping that's a short-term opportunity. I hope we won't need to be wearing masks forever, but you can use the income from that to fund other things, to fund your why, to fund the capital that you need to grow a much larger or long-term viable gap. And then you're going to come up with between 50 to 100 mirages. A lot of the ideas we come up with won't work. People just won't pay for them. You can't get enough people to pay you in the amount of time that you need to make that business work. Okay. And the sooner we know whether this idea works or not, the better. Because you just go on to the next one, test the next one, test the next one. We can test them in ways that it doesn't cost you a lot of money. It takes time, but it won't necessarily take your capital away. Okay. You can use pay-per-click. That's one way. We're going to test with messages directly to people in those target markets. And you can do that in a way that you can get feedback in short time. Be able to say whether this is going to take or not. Okay. And sometimes it may just not be the time for that particular idea. It's not that you just throw that idea out completely. It's a mirage completely. Grocery delivery at one point didn't work. It works now. It didn't work before. It just took time for that idea. But if you had in the 90s when they were with Webvan were trying to get grocery delivery to work, if you had consistently been investing money and capital from the 90s up to today, how much that would have cost, I don't even think about. But with market gap analysis, you can lay out a list of criteria that you want your new business to meet, your new profit center, your new micro business. What do you want this thing to do? Okay. If you have any criteria, let's list those out. We're going to pick a target market for this particular thing that you want to focus on. And we're going to start segmenting. Not going to boil the ocean. We're going to take the ocean, we're going to split it up. Like I said, okay, I'm going to be nationwide, United States. I want to focus instead on just people here in Atlanta. And of the 6 million people in the 13 county area, I want to find those people who have incomes between $50,000 to $75,000. I want to find people who are looking for something that they want to satisfy, something they want to do in their leisure time. We'll go through an example in just a second, but we're going to be segmenting from the macro down to micro, and we're going to do it in stages. Okay, do it in stages to chop it up so we can identify those characteristics that make this group homogeneous. Okay, we're taking all these people in this group; they have these 5 things in common, and because they have these things in common, we've noticed that they're more likely to have this particular problem. They're more likely to see this particular opportunity. And because of that, this particular product offering that we have will work with them and just somebody out in general population. So you're going to go through your segmentation, okay? And we're going to do a walkthrough of this particular person with these characteristics. And hopefully you are in that group. It's better that if you choose a target market that you know intimately because you are in that life, that you're about that, that's you, then you can solve some of your own problems and then test to see if you have enough people in your target group that have that same problem and are willing to pay you to satisfy that business. That'll get your business started with very little capital. So we'll walk through a typical day and we'll start looking at that day and find out where some problems or irritations or opportunities may come. And then we're going to come up with some solutions for this particular group, that particular group of problems, opportunities, very specific. And then we're going to come up with, compare them against the criteria to see if they meet the criteria, both for the number of units we can sell, for profit margins that we need. If I can bring this solution to market, does this satisfy my criteria? And which one of these satisfies it such that I want to test this idea? That's market gap. Let's take a look. I'm going to lay out some criteria first because the event we're doing now is to start a business with $5,000 for $500 or less. It must cost me less than $500 in cash to get profitable. Okay. I want to have a product that can be provided virtually. I don't necessarily have to be hands-on with it. I want to make sure that I can sell at least $1 million of these a year. That potential is there. I may not be able to do it initially, but I want to make sure that I'm addressing something that has $1 million potential. I want to make sure that the profit margins are good. That for every dollar of cost, I can get $20 of revenue. I want to make sure that my markups are significant. I want to make sure that I have a new product, but I don't have to wait for people in the market to accept it as a new product. They see it, they hear it, I understand it, and I can buy it initially. I want to sell through existing sales and distribution channels. I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. I have very little capital. I need to be able to get it out to people using what's already existing. I want to be able to produce a low technology product that can be made by outside jobbers, going through Thompson Net or Alibaba to find somebody to manufacture it at very low cost to me and are willing to do it and have that manufacturing paid for by the customer. I want to be able to focus on something that people buy to use in their leisure time. Just some examples. You're going to create your own to satisfy your own why and what it is that you want to own and run. So this is just a list of an example so that we can run through and see how it works. So we got our criteria. Let's start segmenting this industry. We're talking about leisure time, stuff that's done in leisure time. So we can look at adults, children, family. All three of those can do different things in their leisure, and to satisfy each one of those could be very different. Male, female, other, all together. Uh, Things that are done in leisure time, very different, could be isolating. And I can go into our databases and find specific males, specific females in different areas and be able to segment based on that. People that they're looking for active leisure time activity. I like to do whitewater kayaking, very active. You don't just sit while you're going through a waterfall, category 4 fall. You got to be paying attention. There's also passive where just sitting and listening to an audiobook or a combination of the way. And there are different things that are done by season, spring, summer, winter, fall. Economic levels, education levels, all of these are things that we can segment. Each one of these is a particular segmentation of the market. And we're looking at the data that we're pulling from databases, Reference USA, Capital IQ, some of the databases you can get from research at the library at GSU under all the databases. Go to Reference USA will be one that you can start looking at some of these criteria, either when you're selling to businesses or when selling to individuals. You can use that to try and pull up and start to isolate and put some numbers to the actual people that will satisfy these particular groups. So let's just pick one. Okay, so we got all of these segmentations are going to lead to different groups. They're going to have different needs and going to generate different ideas for products and services for us to test. So I'm just going to pick one. Just let's look at the adult subsection in leisure. And then we're going to, so all these people spend money in their leisure time. Now we're just looking at the adults. Okay. And of the adults, how can we further sub-segment how adults spend on their leisure time? Okay, there's stuff that you do during the workday, on your work days, or there's some leisure that you have on the weekends. There's things that you do on holidays or on vacation. Things that you do in retirement. This whole RVing thing. I got 4 friends now that are retired and they're RVing around the country. It's a trailer, but they're doing it and like millionaires, and they're RVing in retirement. I don't think I would have thought of that, but it's a thing. It's a thing. So somebody is making money with that. They went through a similar process, identified that there are adults of a certain age, a certain income level, and there are some other segments that say that adults in their retirement will spend money on this. You can focus on that and come up with ideas for a new product that you can generate. We're going to focus on just the work days, Mondays through Fridays, or whatever those work days are. And we're going to drill in and segment. Again, we're trying to take the forest and get down not only to the trees, but the branches on the trees and the leaves. Okay. I'd like to get down to about 15,000 people. 15,000 people, if I can get 500 of those people to pay me $50, we got a business. I can start something with that. 100 people paying 1,000. I like that too. But I need to get down from 6 million Atlanta adults down to something that I can work with on a daily and weekly basis at no cost. So here, leisure, adult, work day, we're going to bifurcate it again. We're going to segment it again. Okay, so as we walk through the day, I got awake, pre-work, work. I got post-work, pre-dinner, dinner, post-dinner, pre-bed, bed. Yeah, got your coffee break, the lunch break. These little times. So I was thinking lunch break. It's like Sudoku or something. If I had a game or an app or something I can use to help with leisure time during the day, I can see how other people have used a similar segmentation and be able to provide value and start and fund their businesses from those products. Let's do post work, picking post work, pre dinner, work days, adults for their leisure. Okay. What are some of the problems? Now we've gotten down to enough level of detail where we can start walking through and see some of the problems or opportunities that are associated with that particular segment. Okay. The work day's in and I'm tired. Traffic is frustrating. It's amazing. We're still doing sheltering in place, right? We're doing a virtual meeting now, but traffic is still jacked up. So you're bored while you're sitting in meetings, hopefully not in Zoom, tired of Zoom, spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, whatever, is tired and grouchy. The kids are sick of virtual learning, they're grumpy. Grocery stores are still crowded. You can do delivery, you can order, but grocery store is still crowded after work. You have to shout at the kids, get them to go to the tub. You have to walk the dog, and carry their poop around. You need a dinner cocktail to unwind. And you're just walking through them, trying to see what are some of the rocks in your shoe. What are some of the thorns in your side? What are some of the things that are not quite right, that is bothering you, or somebody that's in this particular market segment that could be the basis of a product or service offering that you can use to start your business for less than $500. News is depressing. Trump, that's just a thing. Lawn still needs cutting. Garden needs weeding. Just there's a list of things that you can come up with, and now you can isolate those particular lists, those things, and try and come up with ideas for each one of those. Each one, any one of them that looks interesting to you, that you think you might want to explore, just kick it around. Kick it around with you and some friends. Um, right now, I'm picking the one where the traffic frustration. Okay, I can have an app that matches the music to the mood, my mood, and the traffic. I can have provide audiobooks or podcasts that are tailored to this specific driver. I may not even have to write those books. I can sell books that Audible has available already, and through my service, I can make that available to this particular driver while they're driving for a fee. Ways to reach out and spend time with people and friends while you're driving without being distracted and being hands-free. They're having Zoom parties now. He was telling me about this last night. People are getting together and having parties on Zoom where they have their own drinks and alcohol, and they're interacting and meeting people and talking to people that they hadn't met yet. So you're clubbing, but you're at home. A thing. I don't know. It's a thing. More efficient ways to get home, like so it'd be like ways or some way to help people alleviate uh, the ride home and make it more enjoyable, or better ways to handle accidents with some type of emergency kit, like move a car out of the road so that traffic flows. Now, all of these may not come up with a product. You have to take these ideas, match them against your criteria, and see which one of these ideas look like something that you may want to go and test. Because the ideas that we come up with may be a mirage, maybe short term, maybe long term, but we won't know until we bounce them out against the target market that we've identified through this segmentation process to see if they're willing to pay for it right now. Okay? There's some other ways that you can go and find ideas for your business. Obviously, we just went through some that you can use when you're using yourself as a source of those ideas. But you can also have friends and family. Inc. magazine just came out with the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing entrepreneurs, those businesses that have grown the fastest over the last 3 years. They published the top one guy. He started as a bootstrap and is now doing $70 in revenue. Going through that list, not only for this year, but for the last few years, will give you ideas of things that are working in the marketplace right now. Okay. Podcasts, I listen to EO Network, Entrepreneurs Network. They have several podcasts. Dan Sullivan, strategic coach with successful entrepreneurs who generate at least $200,000. They pay themselves $200,000 and shows them how they can double their income over the next 3 years while taking 150 free days off. He has a lot of ideas on how to grow businesses. There's still a lot of opportunity magazines like those extra income or income opportunity magazines they used to have in the grocery stores. A lot of the websites are still up, and the ideas they can help you find some of those businesses that have the low cost uh, partnership plans, affiliate programs that you can start with very little money. Funding sites, Patreon, GoFundMe, they have some great ideas that they're getting sourced that you could put into your process and with a business to start. How-to books, both from the libraries. Fulton County Library is open for curbside now. You can reserve books and have them bring them out to your car, or you can just do a lot of business guides that have been written pre-COVID that you can take a spin on those businesses and see how you would adjust them to work in a virtual environment. On a virtual environment with low cash. Try and find an app or some tool that you can use to minimize what you would have to pay in order to get this business up and running. Trade shows, industry publications, I get a lot of information, especially now. We're trying to figure out how the environment is adjusting to COVID. We're doing a lot of virtual meetings with trade associations and industries. Now, a lot of the magazines are now online. They're PDF form, or you can see them digitally. A lot of ideas. People are screaming about where the hurt is. They want to tell you where their pains are right now. And if you can solve those, figure out a creative way to solve those in a cost-effective way, you got a business. You're in business. You're generating revenue. So if you already know the industries you want to be in, a business review is a good way to go. You're going to start with the available resources that you have, your cash, your equipment, what skills you have, the relationships, affiliations you have. If you're a member of the Atlanta Track Club, you are an avid chess player with a rating of expert, whatever. You're a golfer, whatever it is, whatever affiliations you have, throw that up against the NAICS or the SIC, the National North American Industry Classification Code, or the Standard Industry Classification Code for that particular industry, and go to IBIS World from the Georgia State Library site. You can get those reports for free. They can cost a significant amount if you go about them otherwise, but you can get this information from here. We also have Bloomberg terminals. I'm not sure how you get access to those now, but you can, as a Georgia State student, you get access to several of the terminals on campus. We'll have to figure out how to get you access to that now. But they have industry reports that can show you who the competitors are, how large this industry is, how much revenue it has done over the last years, what's the growth rate, who has over 5% of the revenue for this particular industry, what the typical suite of products and services that are being sold in this industry are. Okay, you're in a software business. You're a musician. You are a film producer, or you own a development company. You want to create a development company. What are the services that, what do you sell? What do people in this industry typically sell? How do they make money? What are the revenues? What's driving? Who is buying it? And what's the trend for the customer, for the consumer who is buying it? And you can take this information and put it right back into that market gap analysis and start chopping it up. See who it is that you have access to, who is in this target market, who is in this industry, who either sells or is a competitor. And you can go to the competitor sites and get some ideas about different products and services. Again, copy, modify, as long as you're not breaking the law, you can create revenue from there. And then take all of that information, bounce it up against Pestle. So this is another one of those MBA tools that we got. The political environment, how is it affecting everything we have? The economic, social environment, technological, legal, and environmental review, and see how that you can use new legal ideas, requirements for social distancing. How does it? One of the businesses I run is I do training seminars around the country. So that business completely shut down when the hotel shut down. But now they're opening again, and now they got great deals on meeting rooms for 20 people. You want to go to Alamogordo, New Mexico, and put on a seminar for Excel. You got several hotels that are vying for your business. How does that change the environment? How does that change the problems or opportunities that you can address? This is information that you can use. Now, once you have a list of particular product problems or opportunities, create an offering aimed at your target market that satisfies that problem. Okay? Figure out how it is that you're going to know that I think this business can work. For me, if I can get 3 paying customers at a price that I think is profitable within 48 hours, I'm rolling with that. And I would challenge you. There are few businesses that you could come up with that you couldn't come up with a test from the friends that you have in Facebook right now. Like, I'm an old dude, so I know y'all got way more friends than I do. I'm antisocial and all this stuff. But you can come up with the connections that you have right now. Find people that match the criteria that you've already produced in your market gap analysis that you've already produced at your target market. Come up with a list of 100 people. Write a blurb talking about the problem that you're trying to solve and say that you can satisfy it and offer and send them a link, PayPal or Cash App for them to pay you and see if they'll pay. I know a lot of times with the business model canvas, they'll say get out of the building and test it out, and they'll tell you to go and interview people and ask them. I found that there's a difference between what people say, hey, that's a good idea, you should start that, versus give me your credit card and buy this. Okay. I got this for sale right now. I got 3 of these right now. You can have the last 3. Here, click this button and buy. I get vastly different responses in those 2 situations. And when I'm starting with less than $500, I only want the response that says, I will buy that. Yeah, I don't really, man, that's a good idea. You should, oh man, you should do that. Because I don't have all the money that's necessary to follow up on all the things that other people think are good ideas and they're not paying for it. I want the ones that they want to pay. And again, I brought up the Facebook Messenger one. It's cheap, free. You can contact people, and now you can go into Facebook and say, open up my profile so I can find more people who are in this particular target group. Make them a friend or send a request to a business page that you set up specifically to test this particular product. Add people to that list. Reach out to them with an offer. Reach out to them with an offer. Run an offer for a week, 2 weeks. If it works, Great, we got something to start. If it doesn't, go to the next one. So we have covered all of these things that are on this group. By the time you have done this, call it 4 weeks. Okay, and you run through this iteration with several of these particular business ideas. You've done the test, you've gotten the results. You have something that you can run as a business. Next thing we're going to do, create your marketing plan. Okay, we got what we think will be the basis of this business. What is our target goal? How many sales do we want to generate? Let's say $10,000 by December 15th with 15% profit margin. Putting that in the list top. I need to be able to generate $10,000. And that's going to give me $1,500 of net profit. That's going to give me my $500 of initial investment back, plus the $1,000 of profit in my business in 90 days. Define and size that market. Again, you just went through that process of market gap, so you got a pretty good idea of how you define that market. Now go out and find the list of these people. Okay. When you're creating Facebook ads, you can go in and target many of these characteristics, many of these criteria. You can use those criteria that are in the Facebook ad tools to guide your product development as you're exploring new businesses to create, so that eventually, if you want to use Facebook advertising as one of your methods for generating revenue, as one of your marketing tools for outreach, then it flows directly into it. But I want to find the size numbers of people and be able to find lists of those people that are in my target market so I can reach out. Define your positioning. Now, how is it that you're different? Now, in order for you to know how you're different, you need to know what the competitors are doing. So you need to find out who's better at this. We're doing the MAC cosmetic thing. Whose videos do I like? Whose do I not like? I mean, which ones have great tips? Which ones not? How do mine rank within this group? And how can I ingratiate myself through my brand in this group and get them to buy from me? That leads me right into our marketing objectives. It's the 4 A's. Okay. So it's awareness, attitude, action, action squared. In this target group, I need, over the next 90 days, I need to make 15,000 of the women in this target group aware of my offering and their ability to buy it over the next 90 days. That's a marketing objective. I need to make 15,000 people aware of this offering. I need to convince 1,500 of them to take a certain action. And in order for them to take this action of signing up on this weekly webinar to buy, they're going to have an attitude that I'm trustworthy, that I know what I'm talking about, that these are the same products that they're used to buying, and that they'll be better off buying these same products from you now through this offer, using my discount code, coming through my website, whatever. Action, they have to have awareness, have a positive attitude about it, be able to take action, and then action squared. We want them to buy on a repeated basis. I want to sell 200 people, an average of $50 a purchase. That'll get me my $10,000. And then how do we make that happen? That's through our tactics. That's through our tools. We're going to do Facebook story videos daily. We're going to do Instagram videos promoting our products. We're going to have 100 daily requests for new people to add from our group. Our Facebook Messenger notes, we're going to send out notes to people on our friends list, specifically offering them on a daily basis, taking sub-segments of our group. We're going to do 10 people this day, another 10 people, another 10 people, and work through our week. From that, we're going to create our calendar. We're going to create our budget for the next 90 days that'll show what we're going to spend money on, what are our daily actions that's going to drive our revenue, and how we're actually going to fulfill that. Here's an example, a template of what that would look like. If we're going to start October 1st, we're listing out those days across the top. We're going to track our mental attitude, how we feel in our body. Some days you feel better than others. And we want to track what our activity level is on those days when we're not feeling so great, when we're feeling really awesome. Okay. What are our daily and weekly actions? I'm going to make daily videos. Did I do my daily videos on the first? Did I do them on the second? Did I make my posts for my Facebook videos? Did I actually add 100 new people to my business website per day? Yes or no? And you'll be able to track what your activities are on a daily basis and see how you're driving your revenue on a daily basis. This is essential when you're starting with very little capital. This is one of those keys, controls. You need to make sure that you're executing on the things that you need to do, the things that you have figured out through all your work and research. You have figured out that this is how we're going to drive revenue through this business. I have committed to doing these things. Did I do it? Okay. And if I haven't been doing it over the last week, what am I going to do to change it around? Because if I don't execute on these things on a daily basis, I'm not going to hit my goals. If I don't hit my goals, I don't get my why. I'm not going to get that. The Lamborghini is not going to come into play if I'm not adding these people on a daily basis. I'm not generating the revenue that I need. Does that make sense? If you have questions to any of this stuff, feel free to chime in and I'll try and figure out how to check them and figure out how to get your answers incorporated into what we're talking about.
Feel
Cool.
free to put your questions in the chat. I'm sitting here monitoring the chat. I haven't seen any questions, but if there are, just shoot it to me and I'll be happy to share them with Robert.
Sounds good. Now, the marketing plan is the basis for most of your business plan. It's going to drive how much time you're going to be spending, how much time you're going to need to spend in order to hit those goals, how you're going to actually fulfill, or who you're going to partner with to fulfill these needs that you have for your customers. You're going to have to establish prices. Some of the prices you're going to get, you're going to look at what your customers are paying, what the margins are, and how much income you expect to make, and try and figure out what you can support from this target market group based on the competitors that are in your market, which you can drive. List of the equipment that you're going to need, what those fixed costs, what the variable costs are going to be. We're going to try and keep those fixed costs as low as possible. Variable costs we only incur when we have a customer. So these are costs that are associated with fulfilling that particular customer, and they're being offset by that revenue that is generated by that customer. We're going to get paid that revenue up front more often than not. So it's going to drive what it's going to cost to start a business and what it's going to cost to keep that business going forward on a monthly basis. From that, we're going to generate our cash flow statement. We're going to generate our profit and loss statement, and we're going to put in, estimate a contingency amount, because no matter how closely we try and target and figure out how much things are going to cost, it always takes twice as much. It's going to cost twice as much, and it takes twice as long. So we're going to put a contingency in there, maybe 15%, to make sure that we have the best chances possible at hitting our profit and loss margin, the goal that we had to meet our why, in the time that we want without running out of money. Okay, we need to do that and make sure that we have the cushion that we need, even with the little bit of money that we're starting to run out of our pocket. And when we're doing that, again, trying to make sure that we get customers to pay us upfront. So I think I've mentioned this a time or two, but because we're starting with this little bit of money, we need to focus laser-like on getting those first paying customers, okay? And have in mind the target customer base that we need in order to fulfill the goal we have for starting this business. So if you need to get to that $1,000 in the next 90 days, how many customers do I need to have? If you want to get to the Lamborghini, you want to get that Lamborghini, it's $2,599 per month. So you need to have that amount of money generated in your business to be able to lease this Lamborghini. If you're selling Mac products at $50 and there's a $40% markup, that's so $20 of profit coming in, cash profit per customer. You want to get that $2,599 divided by 20 means you need 130 monthly customers coming in consistently. 130 coming in, you got the Lamborghini. When you put the numbers to it, you know specifically what it is you need in order to achieve success in that business. With that goal, when you wake up in the morning, you know what you have to do in order to whittle it down, how to get closer, whether you're getting closer or whether you're getting further away, because you may be losing customers. There may be churn, people are asking for refunds. You need to figure out how you're going to handle that. You can make changes in your business on the fly with that information. That's the magic of getting started now with the money that you have now versus waiting till after you take the extra accounting class or after you take the extra entrepreneurship class, which take them. It's all useful information, but start now. You're going to have better questions when you sit in the class next. When you go through and you're going through your business model canvas, you're going to have a better understanding of how these elements fit together once you're running your own business every day, every day. Create your accounting system. Okay. You're using a simple system, right? But there are certain things you need to have. So you're going to need to have a list of whatever assets you're going to have, whatever. You're going to use your laptop, you're going to use your cell phone in your business at cost. How much is that equipment cost? Are you going to expense it? How are you going to amortize it over a certain number of years? It's good to figure out how it works. Creating the chart of accounts. So it's your asset, liability, equity accounts. You're going to put money into the business. You need to keep track of it. That money is going to go into your cash. Okay? Owner's equity, cash. And you're going to figure out how accounting works by running your own accounting system. Okay. Chart of accounts. You're going to have an income and expense journal. Okay, as you create your accounts for income, expense, the products that you're going to be selling, the expenses associated with them, so that you can make your P&L, so that you can see what your cash flow statement looks like. All of this stuff is going to, when you put real numbers to it from your business, it all starts to come clear. And you can start using QuickBooks. I use QuickBooks all the time. I got one. I got the desktop version installed on this machine, but you can use the online version for 30 days free, and they have some pretty cost-effective, like $7, $12 options for simple businesses that you're not having payroll, you're not doing accounts payable, not maintaining an inventory. You're making orders on a website and having them drop ship directly to a client. They never hit your books. So ways that you can look into to get that part of your business going. I had an example of a guy, Tim, who wanted to start a painting service. He had painted during the pandemic. He painted his house, painted his mom's house, got some practice um, painting, and yeah, he liked it and saw that a lot of businesses were shut down during the pandemic, but construction, landscaping, those people were still out working. Uh, so I guess they're considered essential. So you want to start a painting service and you want to generate $3,000 worth of profit so that when the world opens up again, you can go and tour Europe. So you want to be able to get the profit, get out, and run the business for a short time and then shut it down. Initially, he did his plan to run it over the summer, but he's pushed it now to October. Going to start lining up customers now here in September. Going to make some initial purchases in October and actually fulfill over those months over the fall and winter. So he set up some personal requirements. He says, I'm going to work during the day. I'll take classes in the evening. We got virtual meetings in the evening. And I'll just do purchasing. These are the list of the fixed costs, startup costs that he's going to actually go out and buy. He chose to buy a heavy duty sprayer, and he's going to use door-to-door flyers. Even with pandemic, with his mask, he's going to be delivering flyers that he printed up for $20 in order to generate sales in his target areas. And that's what he's going to use to drive revenue. And these are some of the variable costs: paint, brushes, turpentine, and things that are associated with particular customer fulfillment. Okay, so there's some fixed costs, broken out what the variable costs are. You're going to need to do this for your business. Figure out which of those costs that are specific to the customers and which ones are overhead, and use that in order to lay out what your cash flow is going to look like. This is a method that he used to come up with pricing. About pricing, just a quick one. I'm going to try and wrap this up soon. But here, one of the methods is going out and looking at competitors and seeing what they're charging for this particular service. You need to know that, but you don't necessarily have to take their price and go lower. In this case, that's what Tim is doing, but you don't necessarily have to do that if you can figure out how your offering is worth a premium. You can figure out how to position yourself even in the startup days. If you can get a better price for adding a different perceived value to your target group, then you're going to be able to come out with your target income with fewer customers if you can charge more. So one of those methods was coming in and using your competitors. Another basis was taking a look at what it's going to cost you and doing the markup feature. And again, this is a service that he's offering. If you have a product offering that you're making, you can take that into consideration and target how many customers you need to acquire times the amount that they're going to be paying in order to create what your target income is going to be. And then you're going to put that on a spreadsheet. This is what that template's going to look like month by month. Again, this is one that we started from the previous months and it's carried over. You can slide it over. But once you have it in Excel, you can tweak these to make them specific to your particular business, adding in that profit margin and the contingency amounts. This is your cash flow statement. You need to get to this place. You're starting with less than $500. As you see in the top right-hand corner, top left-hand corner, the cash on hand, what you're going to spend, you can break this down weekly in your journals, and then your report sums up month by month. But if your cash balance ever gets to zero while you're planning your business, you're not finished planning your business. That means you ran out of cash. You're out of business. Game over. That one didn't work. Okay. Come up with enough scenarios to where you feel comfortable you can hit these numbers without running out of cash using the amount that you started. Now, there are some technical things you're going to have to do as far as filling out and filing with government and state associations if you're going to be selling things that need you to collect taxes and remit those taxes. You need a business license in your area. I'm going to leave you to go through and figure those things out. Again, these are some things about hiring an accountant. I'm not giving you legal or accounting recommendations. I'm not providing that service for you, but there is information that you need to have. Get an accountant. H&R Block, do a quick search for bookkeepers in town. It's fairly cost effective, and you can get somebody on your team to help you. Now, once you get to the point where you have broken even and you've got your profit, you have a business that you can grow. Okay. You also have ideas to add additional products and services with the target customers that you've already looked into. Remember that market gap analysis? You got a lot of insight on how this market works, some of the problems that they have in products and services that you can offer. You got some cash. You can start bringing on extra help. You start figuring out ways to automate how your business works so that you can either take a step back and run the business virtually, bring in other people to try and grow it. You can keep it small, start another business that you want, or just use that micro business to gain the funds to buy or start another business that you want. A couple of books you want to look into about growth is Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. Traction, I forgot the author of that guy's name, and I still didn't look it up. And the EO Network, again, it's an organization for entrepreneurs. It's an invitation-only organization. They look for entrepreneurs who started their business and the business has grown to $1 million in revenue, but they have accelerators that start once you get to $250,000 in revenue. You can enroll and they help you get to the $1 million of revenue within 3 years. I think that's it. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'd like to hear the answer to these 5 questions. What was valuable, if anything, in this presentation? What specific thing did you not like about it? What would you like to improve? What would you like to have included that wasn't? And what skills do you feel you need to be more successful? We can get that information. That'd be great. We can try and provide better tools for you going forward to make your entrepreneurship journey that much easier. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Miss Erica.
Robert, that was absolutely incredible, as I knew it would be. You are always a wealth, a what's bigger than a bank? You are the Federal Reserve of information.
Wow.
And that was amazing. Okay, I'm going to talk for an hour. But I knew you were telling a story when you said that. You are incredible. That was phenomenal information. There's been a lot of activity in the chat. Everyone's asking about the presentation. We did record this presentation, and we are working on setting up our YouTube page. That is not set up as of right now. The goal is to have the link to all of the videos on the launch website. In the interim, if you're interested in a copy of this video, just shoot me an email on Monday. Of course, it takes time to render all these videos. So shoot me an email on Monday, and I'll be happy to send the link to you. But by over the next 2 weeks, the goal is to have the video available and on the launch website. I'm going to end the formal part of this presentation and stop the video, but then we can continue the conversation. Let me just stop the video for a moment. All right, Robert, thank you. I want to officially thank you before I stop the recording. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you. This, again, continues to be one of the most well attended sessions that we have, and it's because of how wonderful you are. So thank you so much.